Well, hello there. My name's Tim, and I'm the author of a book that was just published in Italian called Ecologia Oscura, otherwise known as Dark Ecology, by me, Timothy Morton. And it's my great honor to be presenting something to you today on this notion of after. After what? Well, I'm standing here in my street, actually, flooded with light. And, you know, maybe that's a good image to start with, because we're flooded with all kinds of toxic light because of global warming. We're flooded with carbon compounds. And now would be a really good time to panic. We might be feeling flooded with emotion, actually. Now is a good time to panic. There's only one kind of person who wouldn't panic in a situation like this. That's called a psychopath. But unfortunately, maybe we all have a little bit of feelings of indifference or hostility to non-human beings. And that's understandable, because we've been telling ourselves this story about ourselves for a very long time. And when I say we, what I mostly mean is white, patriarchal, Western human beings. Pretty much everyone else on the planet doesn't think this way exactly. This idea that human beings are special and different and superior to other life forms. It's called Anthropocentrism, and that's what we're after. My talk is called After What? And I think if we're going to be after anything, it's got to be Anthropocentrism. We do not have the intellectual ability or the right or the facts on our side to claim that we're superior and different to other life forms. And now would be a really, really good time for us to contribute towards understanding that better. And Dark Ecology is really written in the spirit of, how did this happen? You know, how did we get to this point? And if you were going to put it in one word, it would be, I think, anthropocentrism, this sort of idea that human beings are special and different. Now, the thing about this idea is it's actually impossible to maintain. It's based on things that are not facts. It's based on pure ideology. And so it's actually very, very easy to climb down out of the anthropocentrism crashed airplane. In fact, it's so easy. It's just that we're sitting on the plane and we're feeling all kinds of shock and fear and, you know, what's just happened. And so we're kind of frozen. And it's almost as if we need some other life form to come and say, hey, don't worry, you survived. That was great. But now you don't have to survive anymore. Now you can live. So to put the weapon down nice and slowly and walk slowly towards the exit of the plane and come down and join us, other life forms. Maybe this is a very smart rabbit, I like to think, saying that to these soldiers on the plane. And we're the soldiers on the plane, and we've got all kinds of PTSD. We're wounded from thousands of years, actually, of trying to prove materially, physically, not just philosophically and conceptually, but in our practice, in our daily life, that we're different and special and superior. And it's impossible. And it's as if we've been sort of cutting things out of ourselves, you know, cutting out our basic connection to other life forms in the biosphere, which is a fact. It's the reason why we exist. We are evolution products. We're made out of all kinds of different life forms. And we've got all kinds of symbiotic beings scurrying around inside us. We have that bacterial microbiome, you know. It's too easy to climb down, actually. People like me sometimes think maybe we get paid to make it sound difficult or even impossible, but it's not. It's actually very, very easy, because all we need to do is notice something, which is that we're biological beings living in a biosphere. And, you know, what we need to do actually is take out of our mind and out of our practices some very, very complicated things that are complicated to believe and complicated to do and complicated to maintain. It's so much easier to just kind of join the club. You know, first of all, what's the first club that we need to join? Well, first of all, white men need to join the club of every single other life form on the planet who's a human being, because patriarchy and white supremacy are foundational, actually, to this anthropocentrism. And the more we can do something about it in a positive way, addressing issues like Black Lives Matter and Me Too, and joining those movements, the better for the planet, because these movements are actually planet scale. And in the words of one of my favorite Italian philosophers, Carlo Lonzi, the women's movement She wrote this in 1969. The women's movement is not just international. The women's movement is planetary. That's how we need to think. We need to do actions that are planet scale. Meanwhile, we need to be thinking actually about our local scale and realizing that this huge, big planetary thing doesn't delete or negate or make this smaller scale wrong or stupid. In fact, it's very, very important right now to get together with people in your neighborhood and start demanding ecologically progressive change from your local government. That might be one of the very best things you can do, actually, along with eating a lot less or no meat. Milanese risotto is one of my very favorite things, by the way. I love making it. Last time I was in Milano, I had this risotto. And if I just had to eat this risotto every day, I would be a happy, happy person. Yeah, eating a lot less meat and being very careful with your food waste are two very, very major things that you can do as an individual. And then as a small group, say, for example, of people living in your street, you can kind of get together and talk to your local politicians about how to change things. And in my street here, they use a lot of things called leaf blowers. And these leaf blowers are gas guzzling. They're really polluting. You spend 20 minutes using a leaf blower is like spending 100 miles driving in a car. It's very, very bad. So I'm trying to get them banned, and it's very difficult because there's this habit of people just doing it. And this is the thing. It's so easy actually to let go of the habit, but it's hard at first for people to realize they need to let go. And that's why I write books, to try to persuade them that it's actually not just easy to let go of these habits of anthropocentrism, but it's actually it's fun, and it's pleasant, and it's worth doing in so many different ways. So my book is like, why did we do this to ourselves? Well, human beings all around the world were actually trying to deal with the consequences of a very mild shift upwards in the climate about 12,000 years ago. The name for this in geology is the Holocene period. And in this period, you can imagine, your food sources went a little bit dried up, or they ran away. And so it seemed like a good idea to settle down and store and plan. And yes, it was a very good idea. But when you keep doing the same thing over and over again, when it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and when it gets more and more and more efficient, and now it requires fossil fuels, and now we're in this version of it called neoliberal capitalism. And there's an alarm going, because we're in the emergency section of this problem right now. And so it wasn't based on some kind of original sin. That's the main point. We did not do some kind of original sin that forever excluded us from some kind of Garden of Eden. We just did things that were actually a good idea. Only when you do them a lot and then scale them up and do them more and more, they create these problems. So that's what I'm here to say. Dark ecology is full of all kinds of quite deep meditations on this issue, but it's very, very simple, really. And why is it called dark ecology? It's called dark ecology because it's a little bit like that notion of the dark night of the soul of the Jesuit Ignatius Loyola, right? The first of all, when you confront a problem, it seems like it's terrible, and you're bad, and you feel awful and negative and horrible. Then you keep working with the situation, and actually you start to feel strange and weird, and I didn't notice that, and look at this strange thing that's happening, and everything begins to become a little weird and not so dark, but just strange. And then you go a bit further and you realize that actually this weird darkness is very, very sweet. Once you get used to it, once you get used to the darkness in dark ecology, it actually is kind of the only place to live, because you're living now fully acknowledging the anxiety and negativity of the situation, and you have something to do. Namely, you have the ability to find within that feeling of anxiety, within that basic general grinding hum of panic, if we find ourselves, you find the ability to love, and you find the ability to non-violently coexist with other life forms, and you find the ability to actually have real joy. And so in some ways, this book, Dark Ecology, is a kind of self-help book. I think mostly philosophy books kind of should be self-help books. The word philosophy comes from two words. The first word means love, and the second word means wisdom. Now, I think you would agree that if you had a choice between love is a set, wisdom is a set of ideas or a program or a little thing on a fortune cookie, or wisdom is a feeling, then I think you'd have to say wisdom is a feeling. The DOM part of the word wisdom means that it's a quality of wise, which means that it's a feeling, and feelings are much more important than ideas. In a way, feelings are from the future, ideas are from the past, feelings are from the future. Why do you go to therapy? Why do you talk to your best friend? Because you're having a feeling that you do not understand yet. And so built into this feeling is this I not yet quality. And it's very important to stay with that not yet quality, because literally you're allowing the future to be different from the past. And wouldn't that be great on a global scale as well as on an individual scale? And so I think it's my job actually not to present you with new ideas and kind of drop them on you and make me feel clever and smart and you feel stupid and evil, but actually to explore feelings with you. And that was the state in which I wrote this book. I wrote this book in a very, very dark, depressing time of my life about 7 years ago. I suffer from depression and I'm very out about it, and I take antidepressants. And, you know, I threw away 5 versions of this book before I let myself finish it, before I was kind enough to myself to finish it. So I understand all about the kind of violence that you can do to yourself when you have depression, which is really a kind of allergic reaction of the intellect to the being that is the host, because this host is so inconsistent. It's come from evolution and it's got all these experiences and all these feelings are flowing around inside it, and the intellect wants to control and understand those things, and some things it cannot control and cannot understand. And so the intellect starts to attack. And the logical result of the attack is the suicidal feelings. And I'm very familiar with those feelings. And so I feel like what I'm doing in my work very much is kind of walking through my own inner space, because what else do I have, as a way to help other people understand this global emergency. You know, when you're feeling very upset, it is kind of like there is a global emergency inside you happening, and nothing else can function properly. And this is what we're going through right now, okay? And I know that we as human beings have got this, that we are not just tyrants, and we're not just like this kind of Pac-Man being that sort of exists by eating everything with its mouth and with its brain. I think we are more like chameleons. We're more like very sensitive chameleons that can take on the colors of the surfaces that we are on, the emotional colors, the political colors, all the colors. And so I actually feel very confident that we've got this. It may feel to us while we're solving all the problems like we're failing. That's because we've become addicted to efficiency, but that's okay. Feeling that you're failing is just another word for creativity. Remember, I threw away 5 copies of this book before I published it, but that didn't stop me. Even in my darkest moment of depression, I was thinking, I'm going to keep going with this no matter what. I could hardly even write a sentence. I was writing paragraphs that were just one line, you know. I couldn't do any more. And then I realized actually, hey, you know what, a one-line paragraph is called a poem, line of a poem. So I started writing it like this, and this was for my friend, Chris, who works in New Orleans, which is a city close by to here. Kind of the relative of Houston, this city is. So I went to his place because he's my friend, and I'm giving the lecture, and it's this poem, you know, and I have to do it because it's this lecture and it's an obligation, and I don't feel so good. Anyway, I'm reading it, and suddenly in the middle I realized, oh, this is my book, but just smaller. If I just add a few sentences to each of these sentences, then I have it. And I'm telling you this because the way to find your way out of a problem is to figure out what the caring feeling inside. The caring is underneath the anxiety. Why do you feel anxious and upset? Because you care. If you didn't care, you wouldn't feel anxious and upset. It's perfectly all right to feel anxious and upset right now because you care, you see. You care. You care. That's why this is happening, because you care. If you find that caring place inside, then that's the antidote, actually, to all the bad stuff. Just find that place and start to think and work and feel and act from that place. And don't let anything get in your way. Don't let anything from the past inhibit you from just climbing down out of that wrecked plane of anthropocentrism and joining all the other animals in the desert who need you. You know, they need you. They need you guys to come and join them and help out. And they're kind of begging you in different ways. Some of them are just begging you by falling over and going extinct and disappearing. You know, we're going through a terrifying mass extinction event caused by global warming. And, you know, again, my job is to try to help you to unglue. You know, that's the spirit in which I wrote this book. You know, how to unglue. If you know that things are bad, if you know that things are terrible, if someone in your life just died, how do you continue to live? How do you unglue? How do you stop being frozen? And I think there are ways to do it. And I think it's the philosopher's job, actually, to help everybody to find a way of being unglued. It's not about having big ideas and dropping them on people and making them feel bad. It's about helping them to move. That's what emotion means, doesn't it? Emotion, it just means moving. Something that is moving out, emotion. Emotions are very important. Emotions are from the future. Philosophy, if anything, is holding open the door to the future, aka the possibility that things can be different. And things can be different. I truly believe that. If you've got another 5 hours, I can prove it to you using logic and quantum theory and all kinds of fun things. But as I don't, and as I actually have to wrap this up, you're just going to have to trust me. But I trust myself. So I hope you can trust me, and I hope you like this book if you read it. And let me know what you think. tbm2@rice.edu. That's where I work, and that's an easy email address to find online. And it would be my honor to talk with you more about this in person, if you'd like. Thank you again for listening to me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be part of this festival. And I hope you have a lovely one. Thank you.